We are here at Fintensity Limitless Payments, and I have the pleasure of speaking to Michael from Banking Circle. Michael, for those who haven't had the opportunity to meet you, just tell us briefly who you are and what you do.
Briefly, my name is Michael Boel. I'm heading up the area within Banking Circle called Clearing and Product Execution. And basically what we're doing is I own the relationship with all the central banks, the clearings, the technology providers enabling those things here, and the bankers associations. On top of that, I'm also deeply involved in the technology and the engineering development, integrating those solutions here. So both owning a little bit of the regulation perspective, but also the technical integration. So I don't get in a fight with anybody internally in that sense here. So mixture between tech, regulation and looking into the future. That's what I'm doing at banking.
Very good. Now, earlier on stage, you gave a presentation about agency banking.
Yes.
Tell us, what does agency banking stand for? What does it do?
Agency banking, I don't know if it's a market or coin term, but many banks are using it. Basically, it's a bit of a mixture between being a bank sponsoring in other banks. So we would be a bank that can take on in our agency banking solution a smaller bank. So a little bit of a mixture between a big brother bank and what we in Denmark call a data central or a data provider in here. So agency banking will solve you the product that a larger or a direct player in any of the clearings or settlement mechanisms can go in and help smaller banks that doesn't want to lift the technical burden either via integrating or keeping their own central bank money to get a time to market. So agency banking is making PSPs grow out of the bowels of the larger banks from a corporate account or from virtual accounts. It's the next step up the ladder where you will take your own big code, your own IBANs, and then you can deposit them with a tech provider or another bank to give you access to the clearings on equal terms with the banks.
And so can you help me understand what are the main challenges that agency banking is helping customers address when it comes specifically with the SEPA legislation that's coming recently in Europe?
There are still some unknowns in the legislation here on how to do it. I think it was brought up on stage today. Is there a correlation between what the lawyers put into the regulation and how the technicians can facilitate it here, and sometimes there is a gap. But what we are foreseeing here in the European market is that there has been a bunch of PSP types, payment service provider types, invented or established under different EU regulations or in the EU area. But the infrastructure has not really caught up in that sense here, meaning that even though there was a regulation fitting in these providers here, the infrastructure was not fitted for it. And that's what we are seeing coming now. The European Commission is coming up with that they want to mandate SEPA payments, SEPA instant payments. So if you already are adhering to SEPA credit transfers, you should also go on SEPA instant. What is unclear in the regulation is there is also a sub-point where you need to do IBAN verification, and that's sort of the tipping point on this one here. Banks would need to be able, if they are asked, to tell who owns the account over on your books. Is it Chris owning that account number with Danske Bank? Then Danske Bank needs to tell yes, no, or maybe.
Right.
But if you're a PSP living in the bowels of a larger bank, Barclays, Danske Bank, Citi in that sense here, there will only be one account or some virtual accounts all owned by the PSP. Mm-hmm. So they will have a hard time identifying those clients here. So what we are seeing is that the PSPs, the payment service providers, the fintechs that has been living sort of in the hidden, facilitating payments via open banking or via the rails of other banks, they will now be forced or encouraged in the first go to actually get their own big code, their own IBANs, and look like banks instead in that sense. And for that part, you would need agency banking.
Of course. Right, so it's a very timely solution, very relevant. Now, we're here at Fintensity. We've been almost through 3/4 of the day with very intense conversations all about payments. What's been your key takeaway so far?
I enjoy being in a room full of so many payment enthusiasts. I've seen people taking pictures, taking notes, being super enthusiastic, good questions here. Also at an event like this, as I was just talking to a bunch of the people interested in crypto and regulation in that sense here, there's a lot of side groups and a lot of side events going on, both during lunch or doing over a cup of coffee here. So I would say the excitement of the side events, talking to fellow enthusiasts here, gaining knowledge, what they have to say in between breaks here, where you can ask your own questions in a little bit of more informal manner. That's really cool.
It's wonderful to hear that you've had a good time, that it's been valuable to you, and that you've been able to expand your network, talking to also diverse groups. So, Michael, enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.